that's what it is.
Hey, he don't have the calculator notebook anymore. He's got the U.S. soccer one.
What's going on, guys?
Welcome, family.
Don't touch
Welcome.
my diary.
Welcome, welcome. Good to have you, Vice President of Sporting. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Help us out, man, because don't nobody know what that means.
Well, ultimately, what I'm doing is assisting Matt Crocker, the new sporting director, in all facets of the national team and the federation. We have 27 national teams, extended national team, youth national team, obviously the senior. So I'm helping them in terms of the expansion, the evolution, the progression, identification, and all things sporting related in the federation.
You're very grown now.
Did you hear that right now? Did you hear that? Was very rehearsed.
Important question. Do you have an assistant?
I don't, but I'm looking for one.
Oh, hey, okay.
What's up, bro?
What do they get to
Big
do? Do
time.
they get to make you coffee? What's the
No,
role?
I'm not that kind of boss.
You're not?
No. Equal opportunity everywhere. Probably just foot massages, something like that. I don't know.
Where can one apply for that job?
I don't think you're going to get many applications for that. I guess one of the interesting questions that we would all like to know is, no, you know what, let me start with this. Just, are you conscious of how your hiring can impact other people of color? Because this is one of the conversations that we often have in football, right? Is that on the pitch, so much diversity, and yet when you look in the boardroom and when you look at management level, people of color are missing oftentimes. Are you conscious of what your role can be and how that can impact other young people?
Yeah, 100%. I always speak about it. We need representation. And I always try to be a beacon of hope and vision. I think that players or people anywhere, they aspire to be what they see. And so seeing me in this position, I'm hoping that it inspires another generation of minority, black, brown, anybody to reach for their goals and they can achieve it.
I love that. Amen. Okay, so the hiring of Greg Berhalter has obviously been massive news over these couple of days that we've been here. We all got to have dinner with you on Wednesday night, and I guess the big question is, did you already know on Wednesday night when you sat with us at dinner and didn't say anything?
Listen, there is a thing called confidentiality.
The only thing he knew is that he wasn't going to get his wallet out and pay for dinner.
Nah, for sure. I did know, but obviously I love you guys to death, but there were certain things that I can't disperse to the public and even to you guys.
We understand. We respect that. I'm only joking. Did you play a role in that hiring process? Is that something you can share?
Yeah, 100%. The process was led by Matt, obviously, and I was there to kind of assist him in regards to the interviews, the candidate selections, and just give insight throughout the whole process.
I got one question. Why didn't you come on the first when we had the game versus Mexico? Why you coming on now, man?
I wasn't invited.
We invited you.
When? It was an impromptu
Maybe
invitation.
the invite didn't get through. I don't know.
I guess it's
Come on,
damage
man.
control.
It didn't go to my business email. That's why.
I'm curious,
happens
Gooch.
overnight.
What were the metrics for this position that Greg Berhalter fulfilled? So was it trophies, winning percentage, international experience? What was important to U.S. soccer in determining who would be the best candidate for this group?
Yeah, you know, one thing that I've learned with Matt is he's very detail-oriented and he's very granular in regards to everything. This was a process that I've actually personally never been a part of or seen before. So there was a lot of filtering, a lot of questions, a lot of steps along the way. There was a huge, wide net of candidates to fit the profile of the coach we wanted. You know, we have a young team. We want a coach that has experience with developing and growing a young team, that has a vision, not just for the team, but for the federation as a whole, and had a metrics of success as well. And you can see that, you know, in recent days, the players and how they've spoken up for the hiring, it speaks volumes to the impact and the influence that Greg has had. So we definitely stand by him and think that he's the right man.
2 questions. What's your day-to-day look like now that you're a changed man, now that you in the suits and everything on a daily basis? And then the second one is World Cup related. So looking back at 2022, it's similar to Charlie's question, but it's a little bit different. Like, how do you go about assessing that World Cup and assessing the manager to make the decision that he either doesn't stay on or he does stay on?
From 2022?
The last World Cup, yeah.
So first thing, my day-to-day is much like yours in the airplane. I was in Argentina for the U20s, so I'm a support role for all the national teams, women's, extended, men's, youth, all of that. So I'm really trying to expand myself, and I've only been in the role for about a month, so I'm learning a lot, having a lot of conversations, and try to insert myself in the right places at the right times. In regards to the World Cup, we have a very talented group, and obviously this the hire with Greg Berhalter, it's met with bias, either with it, for him or against him. As we can understand, that's part of sports. But we definitely believe that he was the right man to move forward for a multitude of reasons, right? He has a vision. He already created a great foundation. He really showed And I think that a lot of people don't understand the number of candidates that he was able to compete up against and actually came out as the top candidate for Matt.
So may I ask you a question on that? The names that we keep hearing are Jesse Marsh, right? Patrick Vieira are two that have been made very public. Are we able to reveal other names that were interviewed for the role?
Now, obviously, for confidential purposes, I can't, but I can definitely tell you that there were top coaches from top leagues and international national teams.
Can you tell us if results don't go according, say we don't get to a semifinal or a final of Copa America, would that have an impact on the coach's role?
I think obviously the coach's role is to get results all the time. So obviously every game he's obviously measured.
Okay.
I believe that right now the reason we didn't bring him in for Nations League or for Gold Cup is because we didn't want it to be business as usual, as Matt said. We want to actually have a really granular, detailed conversation with Greg to see how we can expand his influence. If that means more support staff, if that means, you know, defensive coaches, offensive coaches, a way to get the most out of this team and out of Greg as well.
You had a set piece coach for last World Cup, but we didn't score off of one set piece.
We didn't. We didn't score off the set piece. That's all right.
He stared in your eyes like you made the decision.
Yeah, no, like
He said, explain yourself.
You just started, Clint.
Wasn't I there with you?
Yeah, you were there with me.
My thing here.
But I just feel like it's a missed opportunity not to have him to coach in the Gold Cup, to grade him upon how he's developed.
But right now, what we want to do is
Charlie.
we want to be able to develop that support staff around him in the best way possible. In order to do that, we have to assess him and what he needs and evolve his evolution of a coach and his influence. So that's going to take time. That's not a week. The next Gold Cup game is in 6 days, and I don't think that's adequate time to be able to implement that.
One of the big talking points in rehiring Greg Berhalter is the relationship with Gio Reyna and Ricardo Pepi in particular. Have those conversations been had before the announcement? Was it after the game? Did you pull them aside? Because it seemed like Ricardo Pepi was taken off a little bit when Jenny Chu asked him the question. He was in shock a little. He didn't know how to address it. So how did that conversation go down? And is it this is what's happening, you got to deal with it, or is it can we move forward?
Yeah, obviously you guys caught Pepi at the end of the game. He's just catching his breath, and you're asking him this question, and maybe he wasn't in the right state of mind to answer that. But in regards to Gio, this is definitely a conversation that will have to happen down the line, but only when Gio feels comfortable with it, and that's the main importance. You know, we want to be able to create an atmosphere in this team that is good and beneficial and proactively great and moving it forward for not just Gio, but for the group as a whole.
Give us the checklist, right, for what the rest of this year looks like in terms of trying to manage our expectations. So in terms of Greg Berhalter's involvement, and then just kind of pinnacle moments for U.S. soccer throughout the course of this year, and then obviously leading up to 2026.
Well, the year's almost over after the Gold Cup, so we had the 2 games at the end of the year with Ghana and Germany. So those are going to be the first opportunities for Greg to actually come in with his new staff, with his new mentality, and with the players, and actually get an idea for what he is moving forward. And what we don't want is the players to think that it's just going to be the same old song and dance from the Greg Berhalter of the last 4 years. We want to be able to evolve that system, the atmosphere, the culture, and himself to be able to get the best out of these players in 2026.
When we were talking about Mexico earlier before that 3rd place game, one of the things that Clint talked about is how important it is that things stay in-house. How disappointed was the U.S. Soccer Federation that news about Greg Berhalter was leaked and was published before you guys were ready for it to be made public?
Yeah, it was really disappointing that overshadowed the result of the players. 3-0, I don't think we've ever done that in an official match against Mexico, and I think that really got downplayed. The players played a fantastic game. Obviously, the red cards were something that we wanted to avoid, but credit to these players and credit to their mentality. Playing against Mexico is not easy in any capacity, and to score 3 goals against a team like Mexico is another difficult feat. So
it had to be a small group that was aware of the decision, though, right?
You're looking at the group that was aware of the decision.
So was you.
Wait, what?
What do you mean?
The decision of?
The decision of who was going to be coach. I'm saying that's a small group that was made public.
Very small group, and it was obviously, you know, it leaked, right? And so you guys had the gentleman on that was able to tweet that.
Yeah.
And obviously we wanted to be able to do that ourselves, but you know how sports is, and information get released, and we try to manage that as best as we can moving forward.
Listen, we love you. Are you happy?
I am happy.
We miss you, though.
Honestly, no, real talk. I love you guys. I'm happy to be here.
We miss you, man.
I miss you guys too.
We have to have you back.